Hey guys, Mike Ryan, Fastball USA. I want to share with you some stories of some of our students throughout the years. And this really resonates with the concept of it doesn't matter where you start, it only matters where you finish. So I'll give you an example. One of the players that we worked with in here, his name is Mike Giovenco, went to get drafted out of a Division III college, North Park University in Chicago. In fact, he was drafted twice. My first year working with their players, their pitchers and position players on velocity, what I noticed was Mike's first year there, very big guy, threw 89, topped at 91, really was pretty, in my thoughts, was pretty effortless. On a crow hop, he was 94 miles an hour. He was the stud pitcher of the program. After working with several of the players, including Mike, for about a month or so, I noticed that Mike's velocity was pretty much the same. Other guys were climbing. Matter of fact, there were other people starting to get a little closer than him. And then after a while, what I started to do, I had a conversation with him, and I asked him, what is your goal? And one of the things that he said to me that stood out was I want to pitch in professional baseball. And at that time, I was scouting with the Seattle Mariners, and I looked at him, I said, okay, I'm going to give you the truth. And the truth is this. You're probably going to get drafted, or likely to get drafted, 89 and 91. I go, but you got to understand something. You're pitching at a Division III school, and every time you give up a hit or you may have a bad day or whatever it is, scouts tend to be negative. So they're going to look for things that are wrong. So my advice to him was pretty simple. I would approach it like this, and I told him, be so good that they, meaning the scouts, can't ignore you. Be so good that they can't ignore you. And what I was basically telling him was I would like to see his fastball up around 94, right? And I figured if he was throwing a little bit harder and maybe a little bit more dominating at his current level, then it would be more of a slam dunk to get drafted, as opposed to maybe being drafted in later rounds. And his performance would go up and he would get drafted lower. Well, so we talked about how to make that happen. And Mike's, big guy, whatever, he was 6'4", 6'5", very good condition. And when I saw him move, I didn't think he was a very good mover. So he asked me, what do I expect? Or what should he do? And I suggested you need to come to Fastball USA during the winter and very close to Chicago, only 30 minutes away, located here in Schaumburg. And I said, our high school guys will teach you how to move. And that was something that I think resonated. Do you think there's something wrong with my movement? And my opinion was I felt like he was a kind of a slow mover, very strong, and I felt like we could challenge him to be a more complete version of himself, a more athletic version of himself. And God bless him, he came in, started working out alongside our high school athletes and guys who are even younger. And how we move here at Fastball USA is a special emphasis. Movement to us is a critical thing. Trying to get your body to move very quickly in short bursts, quick energy, that in a sense of where you can move your body quicker, very specifically to baseball, rotational, stabilizing one leg, lateral, rotational, and explosive. So I said the good news is that we're not going to do long duration exercise. The good news is the most we're going to do any exercise, strength, whatever you want to call it, is going to be 12 seconds. That's the most we're going to do. And the bad news is that, however, we're going to require you to move as fast as you possibly move. So a lot of the training, a lot of the exercise we were doing with medicine balls, handled med balls, agility ladders, cones, sleds, ropes, whatever it was short, quick bursts of explosions that what I was trying to do is get him to teach and train his body how to take his large frame and learn how to move it more explosively, shorter, faster, quicker in a sense. So what we were training him is to train his quick twitch muscle fibers, which is a critical thing in baseball. I want you guys to think of, the amount of times you've heard of people running poles or running long distances or doing any kind of training where it's pacing, almost like cardio. Cardio is not baseball training. Cardio is preparing you for the basketball court, maybe to run the Chicago Marathon, but it's not training you to deliver a pitch down a mound in 2 seconds and get it up to 90, 95, 100 miles an hour, right? You have about 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds in your delivery to be able to gain energy and explode, right? So we talk about there's an explosion followed by a rest. And when we brought Mike in, this is where the emphasis became. It became, we're going to do some agility, but it's going to be in short, quick bursts. We're going to do some sprints. We're going to do some med balls. We're going to do ropes, whatever it was. Everything was short, quick bursts and pushing him to move faster. The critical component working out with some of our younger guys, our high school guys, was a lot of them were already pretty good at moving, so it showed it showed him what the expectation was. Now, what happened was his 94 crow hop throw by the end of that winter turned into 102 miles per hour on a crow hop throw, and his mound velocity crept up later that spring up to 96 miles per hour, and then he was drafted. He ended up going back again to his school, Division III school, North Park University in Chicago, and was drafted again. And a lot of the work that we did along the way had a lot to do with getting him to move. We focused a lot on arm health. We focused a lot on training the body the right way to move. We did work on mechanical stuff, but I would say mechanics was a secondary thing, and getting him to learn how to become more explosive was a big thing. Also enhancing his warm-up. The warm-up that we created for him was much more than he'd ever done in terms of getting his body physically prepared to throw the baseball, and then introducing a recovery program. So I want you to think about it like that. So there's a lot of people out there that think mechanics is the answer to everything. Mechanics is very important, and it kind of depends individually how mechanically efficient you are. It's not about one right way to throw a ball. It's about the ideal way for you to throw a baseball. And in Mike's case, I think a big thing that he saw to get him into professional baseball, fastball went up to 96. His crow hop throw went to 102. A large part of that was learning how to move, becoming a more athletic version of himself, short, quick burst, explosive energy. And we did that, followed by rest. He never trained out of breath, by the way. It was doing something for 5 to 7 to 8 to 10, no more than 12 seconds, and then taking a 30-second break or more, and then getting back and doing it again. This is not how most people train. This is how we train players to learn how to move their body more explosively, and very specifically as it relates to baseball. Hitting's very rotational, throwing's very rotational, which, by the way, when we put him, even though he wasn't hitting in those days, we did put a bat in his hand, and he was kind of just messing around swinging a bat. This is something that's important to note. He was able to generate 101, 102 mile per hour bat speed. So his crow hop throws went up over 100. His bat speed was over 100. And we see this quite a bit, where however hard somebody throws is how hard somebody hits if you're training it the right way, right? That's a big part of this. So I would say the majority of guys that we've tested, if they throw 82 miles an hour, they will often hit 82 miles an hour. So part of it is that's what they've programmed their body to do. So you can program your body, recruit the right muscle fibers, train it to do whatever you want it to do. In baseball, if you want to be more powerful, you got to train the quick twitch, the ability to go from 0 to 100 in a short amount of time. It takes you less than a second to swing a bat. It takes you about 2.5 seconds to deliver a pitch, roughly. Catchers catching it, getting down to 2 in 2 seconds. The average ground ball in the infield is 4.3 seconds. And yet you have players doing long duration exercises, training what I would say is more cardio-based or slow twitch based, and they can't get explosive. Matter of fact, I've seen a lot of people, they get in a weight room, they get bigger and they stronger, and they become worse movers. They don't actually become more explosive. They got stronger, but now they have a harder time being able to stabilize on one leg, or they're not rotating as fast. So you have to understand what your sport is. In Mike Giovenco's case, a great example of a guy that went on to do some really good things, not just in college baseball, but in professional baseball. And a big part of that, even after that, was the foundational emphasis on arm health, which kept him going as well. So again, it doesn't matter where you start. It matters where you finish. Many people out here think that, well, if you play Division III baseball, you can't play professional baseball. We've had 3 players here at Fastball USA alone, this small training facility, play Division III baseball and go on to play professional baseball, and one of them has played in the major leagues. So it doesn't matter where you start, it only matters where you finish.